Grace Power, and I'm with My Gold Sugar. This is the 10th video on a series of 10 videos on how to get started with sugaring, and we're going to be talking about an important tip on how to get unstuck when you're sugaring. I would say the most frustrating part for people when they're first learning how to sugar is that the sugar can get really melty and be hard to work with, and it can just be on a spot, and they're trying to flick it off, and they're doing the stop, drop, and put some pressure and flick that we talked about in the flicking technique video, but it's just not coming off. So what do you do? And there is a video I made on YouTube that I show, while I'm sugaring and I'm getting stuck, how I kind of get unstuck. So you may want to tune into that and check that out to actually see it live. But just to give you some tips, hopefully by now you've had a chance to practice with some sugar, and if not, this will definitely get you prepared for when you do start practicing with the sugar. But when you are working with the sugar, let's say you get stuck and you can't get it off, it's melting everywhere. One thing to do is just to stop and let that sugar just sit on the skin for a while. If you have a little bit of sugar still left in your hand, while you're waiting for that area to cool down and just let it sit, you can go to another spot and sugar a little bit. Sometimes that's just a way to pass the time. Otherwise, just sit, wait, and let it, I would give it a good minute, especially if you've been working at it for a while, and just let it sit, and then come back to it and try flicking it off from a little bit different angle than you were trying before. So let's just say that you were, right here, here's your sugar, you were molding it on, stop, drop, put some pressure, flicking it off, and it just wasn't, you just weren't able to flick it. So maybe instead of coming at it from this side, try coming at it at a little bit of an angle, coming at it on sideways. So you would still come to the end of it, stop, drop, and flick, and see if that helps. You could even go against the method, like the ideal way of pulling it off, and instead of pulling it with the hair, pull against the hair, but just to try to get it from a different angle, and that a lot of times will get it off. So let's say you come down here, stop, drop, flick it this way, and that could get it off as well. And then another thing with sugar is that you can use a strip. So if you've been trying with your hand and it's just, it's all over and you can't get it off, then you could take a strip, and usually you'll have to take your gloves off or take the sugar off your hand if you've been using it in your hand. So you can get a strip, then put the strip down, rub it on, and then remove it with the strip. And a lot of times that will resolve it. If you don't have strips or don't want to go to that extreme, the other thing I recommend is just using your hand, scraping off as much of the sugar as you can, and then just rinsing the rest of the sugar that you can't get off with water or a warm towel. You can put like a warm towel on it, let it sit on, and wipe it off, and that will get the sugar off. And then just start fresh. So another thing that sometimes helps is actually to put a little bit of powder on top of the sugar. So let's just say we're back at square one, there's sugar kind of all over, and we're just having trouble getting it unstuck. Then taking a little bit of powder and putting it on top of the sugar, and just a light dusting, just a little bit of sugar, or a little bit of powder on top of the sugar. Sometimes that will kind of thicken up the sugar a little bit, and it just makes it easier to flick off. So that's one thing I've tried and it's worked well. Another thing that might help is taking another piece of sugar, a brand new piece of sugar that's firm and not melted, and and taking that new piece of sugar and then just putting it over the piece of sugar that you couldn't get off, and see if that will give you enough. I don't know, sometimes that's just like what you need to get the sugar off. So thanks for tuning in, and hopefully that gives you a lot of helpful tips on how to get unstuck, so when you're sugaring it's not so frustrating. Be sure to comment us or call us, contact us if you need extra help, if you have questions, if you're still getting stuck and you've tried everything I've mentioned. And I do want to invite you to watch the next video, which is a bonus surprise video of how to use the stick method with sugaring. So we'll see you